You ready to do this, Steve?
Let's do it, Spence. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Nanu, nanu!
We're two best friends. Despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 10. Steve, how do you feel? You are officially double digits.
I'm going to Disney World, baby! I feel good, man. I can't believe it. This is a small milestone, a small step for mankind, but a giant step for us.
Do you remember when you hit double digits? Like, that felt like it meant something back then.
Oh, yeah. Like, you could walk downtown by yourself. You could order your own ice cream. I mean, I don't know what the milestones were, but yeah, there was something there. There was some substance, some heft.
Well, we're 10 episodes in to the Fortress of Nerditude. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for telling your friends and your family. We're glad you're here, and we hope you stay for 10 more and many more after that.
Amen, brother.
Steve, how was your week, man? What is going on? What is new?
As always, my week was good, and I don't just say that lightly. You know, that's not just kind of my common mantra, that the beat that I'm drumming. It actually was a really good week. My wife had a birthday. And so on Friday of this week,
I said happy birthday on Facebook, yo.
Thank you very much. I always, as a good husband, I always try to send out like a tweet or a text or an email or whatnot. Just say, hey, it's Carrie's birthday. Reach out to her, and hopefully she felt the love. So, but on Friday, I took her out to Maggiano's. It was kind of funny. I don't know who's listening to this, but I'll just tell it anyway. I actually called my father-in-law to see if he could watch the kids so we could have like a romantic evening. So I call him up and I'm like, hey, Dad, I'm just, it's Gary's birthday tomorrow, and so I want to take her out to dinner, yada, yada, yada. And he said, well, yeah, she's coming over this afternoon, which was the day of her birthday. She's coming over this afternoon to play games with Mom and I and cook us lunch and all this and whatnot. And so I felt really bad, like just being like, hey, and can you watch my kids too? So I was like, hey, so do you want to come to dinner with us? And so what was a romantic evening to begin with turned out to be my in-laws and all of our kids. But it actually turned out to be a great night. We had a great time. I called Maggiano's and I was like, look, you better pull out the stops. It's my wife's birthday, yada, yada, yada. So we go to like this back corner of the restaurant. The whole place is decked out. There's balloons, like confetti, everything. And it was a fun time.
Did you get Carrie the bowling ball that says Steve that she's always wanted?
I got that for her last year.
And, right.
So yeah. But no, it was a great meal, and it was one of those meals where you're just like, I don't care what you order, kids. I don't care how much it costs. Let's just have fun. And we did. We had a great time. But what was funny is that my son, Carter, my oldest son, wanted to bake her a cake. And she has like this one cake that she really likes. She makes it a lot. It's like a triple chocolate cake made in a bundt cake. You turn it over after you're done, and then you sprinkle it with like confectionery sugar, and it's awesome. So he made this cake for her all by himself. And it looked beautiful, it was ready to go. And I'm like, okay, so we'll have this, maybe tomorrow night. And he's like, no, I got to decorate it. I'm like, no, it looks fine. He's like, no, I got plans. I'm like, okay. So I know, right? So I take him to Walgreens because that's the only place that's open at like midnight when he tells me this. And he buys $14 worth of fixins. And so he slathers this thing with like this chocolate ganache frosting. Then he takes like these Reese's Pieces and mashes them on the side. He takes full-size marshmallows and just sticks them all over. Takes Oreos, crushes them up, sprinkles them on top because she loves Oreos. Takes Milano cookies, crushes those up, put those on top. And then to top it off, he says, he buys like 5 whatchamacallit candy bars. And I'm like, what are these for, buddy? And he's like, they're Mom's favorite. I'm like, I don't think they are. So he busts those up and he puts them all over. And then he takes 2 still in the wrapper and just shoves them in the inside of this bundt cake. So they're sticking out like 2 ears. And So this thing, I mean, it is a sugar diabetic's like nightmare. And then he's like, and we're gonna
tell me you got a picture.
Oh, I got a picture. We will post it. And
Nice.
And he says, and I want a candle for every single year she was born, every single year she's been alive, which is 36. And don't tell her I told you that. And I'm like, dude, buddy, I don't know if we have 36 candles. And he's like, so he's pillaging through our pantry, and he finds like these long candles. I'm like, whatever. So he sticks them all in the middle of this bundt cake. So they're kind of like this round. I mean, they're tall. They're probably like 8 inches, 9 inches tall. And then he takes the regular sized candles and puts those around, right? So we start lighting them. My father-in-law, mother-in-law are there. The room is dark. The dining room is dark. So we're ready to bring this thing in. So we light this mother up. And these long candles are sparkler candles. So these babies start sparking all over the place. And there ain't a small amount. There's a lot of them. No. And then the bottom candles produce enough heat that they start melting the sparkler candles, which bend over and start the cake. The whatchamacallits started on fire with the packages. I'm like, ah! So we bring this inferno of sugar and flames before my wife, and she's like, what do I do with this thing? I'm like, put it out before it takes the house with us. And so she puts it out, with many blows, and we enjoyed cake, and no one had to be taken to the hospital. So, and our house is still standing. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was epic.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Happy birthday, Carrie.
Happy birthday. So that was kind of the culmination of my week in many ways, and I had a great time, and it just is awesome though, because my son's just very thoughtful and does a lot of thoughtful things. We've also been up on the words, because he's at a spelling bee this Thursday, and so he's been practicing words like crazy. We have our whole wall is like papered with little words and then pictures that depict what the word is, and so he's preparing for that. We had scouts tonight where my younger son Addison got his wolf badge, so he's doing great. And
nice.
My daughter Alana just got made Jasmine in her little production of Aladdin. So moving on up.
Wow, congrats, Madura family.
I know, right? We're not the dregs of society like you once thought when you befriended me so long ago. Anyway, but so it was a good week. How was your week? What's up with the Stapleton clan?
So my mother came into town last weekend, and so she's staying with us for about a week, and then she's going to move over and stay with my brother to help out with them and the baby that they just had. And once again, congratulations to Josh and Steph on the new baby. So mom's in town, and that's been really good. This weekend, I was out with Brita and the boys and my mom, and we're in the car, and Jackson, my youngest, is obsessed with trains. And so they get it in their head that we need to go ride a train. So we actually on Saturday took the whole family, and we drove about an hour and 15 minutes from our house to Heber, and we rode the Heber Valley Railroad, which
Heber Creeper.
If you're from here, they call it the Heber Creeper. And we took that train ride, and the boys loved it. They had so much fun, and there was a little robbery that takes place mid-train ride, and we were enjoying that, and that was a lot of fun. So did that with the family. It was a good weekend. Let's see what else happened this week. I edited the podcast last week with a brand new editing program. So that was interesting. It's a great little program called Reaper I'm trying out. But if you listened to last week's show, we talked and had this segment where we were talking about the movie club, and Brita went silent for a while. That's because something happened to her audio, and it was completely unusable for like 16 minutes. And so I had to kind of find my way to kind of edit around that, and I was using new software. So I learned some things last week. I getting an education the hard way, so to speak. But it was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to editing this week's using that as well, and hopefully it won't take me the amount of time it took me last week.
Yeah, just for all you that listen at home, yeah, Spencer is he's the brains of the operation. He's also the technical savvy of the operation. I'm just
no, that's not how it goes. Reverse that.
I got a face for music. Yeah, I got a face for radio. But that's Thank you so first of all, thank you publicly for your labor of love that is this podcast and all the work that you put in outside of just our conversations. That's all I just show up and talk. So
let's see. I had Boy Scouts tonight. Took the Boy Scouts to a recreation outlet store, and we got some training on cold weather camping because we have our Klondike coming up in 2 weeks. So that's going to be happening really fast. And that was a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff there. And I've never been told I need to buy wool clothes so much in my life. But I understand why.
You're like, do you work for like the wool companies? Like, what are you pushing this for? Like a drug
this guy's
dealer?
got stock in wool, I guarantee.
That's right. He's got a lamb at home.
So, and then the last thing that just kind of happened was we ended up losing 2 of our workers at my job this week. One of them was a planned deal, and he left, and that was really sad. And the other one, someone I was working with, and it just kind of wasn't working out the way we'd anticipated it to, and that was really sad. And so we lost 2 really good people that we come to think of as friends, and so that was kind of a little bit of a downer to kind of end the work week on. But back to the grind. Monday of this week, it's been crazy busy and just plugging along and hitting it. So, just kind of a usual week, if usual means riding a train and having your mother in town and doing the sorts of things I do sometimes. So
there you go. So let me ask, the Heber Creeper, how long of a train ride is that? Because I remember I was on that one time for some kind of dance when we were going to BYU, and it's a cool ride. I mean, it kind of winds through the canyon, but how long is that? How much was it? Like for those of our listeners
during the winter time, it doesn't go as far down the canyon because it can't get back up because of all the ice and snow. So it kind of goes just around. Yeah. It starts in Heber and kind of goes around Deer Creek Reservoir, and it's about a 15-mile trip. But it takes you about an hour and a half to do it because they stop and they do the little train robbery thing and whatnot. During the summertime, they take it all the way down to Vivian Park, which is, down towards the opening of Provo Canyon. So it goes down considerably further. So it's a little bit longer to ride. I'd probably say it's more like 2.5, maybe even 3 hour ride if you do it during the summer, but it's only hour and a half if you do it during the winter. And it's really cool because they do themes, like around Christmas time, they do the Polar Express, and they have, little tickets they punch, and Santa Claus, but no really weird looking Tom Hanks CGI, so you're okay. But yes.
Thank you for your sensitivity to my issues.
But they do other stuff. They'll do dances and themes where they'll play, certain music. They've got a Taylor Swift lookalike coming in February, and they're calling it the Taylor Train. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny, but I probably will pass. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. If you have something like that, some sort of, historic train in your area, take your family, take your kids, take your girlfriend, take your brother or sister, someone, and go for a ride and just enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool. Very cool. It's always kind of fun to get out and see, the places that you live. Because I guarantee you, wherever you live in this country or in this rock that we call home, there are probably places right outside your back door you have no idea are there, and they're really cool. In fact, on Sundays, what I like to do is I'll take the kids and I'll go out after we get back from church. I'll let Carrie have a little Sunday nap because she appreciates that. And I take the kids out and we just go exploring. So we went and we found this place called the Volo Bog, which I've never been to a bog before, but basically this nature preserve that have these floating walkways that will take you through this kind of swampy, marshy area. But it's teeming with wildlife, right? We saw a praying mantis and we held it in our hand. We saw, probably half a dozen frogs, turtles, cranes, all this. It was really cool. And so, get out there, man. Get out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely things to see. And it's worth opening your eyes and looking around. I mean, Ferris Bueller said, if you don't stop sometimes and look around, you just might miss it.
Miss it.
That's right.
The wisdom of Ferris Bueller.
You can always go back to that line. You really can. All right, Steve. You know what time it is.
I know what time it is.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
It's time for some Rebel Intelligence. I always have to let you know, Steve, that many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, it is time for Rebel Intelligence. Steve, it's, man, I tell you what, 2017, it's taking its toll already. I'm so sad to say, but we lost John Hurt this last week. John Hurt was 77 years old. He had his birthday like 5 days, turned 77 like 5 days before he passed. John Hurt, most people are gonna probably know him as like Mr. Ollivander in the Harry Potter films.
Right.
But he was also, I mean, he has a huge resume of a bunch of different films that he'd actually been in. But he was Kane in the first Alien movie. He was the guy that the alien actually like burst out of his chest from, which kind of funny because he reprises that role in Spaceballs, if you remember.
Oh, that was him in Spaceballs?
Yeah, at the very end.
Oh, I love that. He had the soup. I'll have the soup. I'm having the soup. The special.
He also played S.R. Haddon in Contact. He was kind of the guy that like lived in space that you kind of didn't know. You know, he was talking to Jodie Foster. He was the voice of the Horned King in the Black Cauldron. He was the character Winston in the 1984 movie. And then for the Doctor Who fans, he was the War Doctor in Doctor Who. So it's really sad that he's gone. A great actor, a great voice actor. So, our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and his loved ones.
Yeah. Not to make this an obituary, and I feel bad that many of our Rebel Intelligences often start with the loss of all these. Why don't we ever talk about the birth of some actors? Huh? Good golly.
It's really hard. It's really hard to know who was born that's going to become an actor.
Well, if they have good stock, I think they come from some acting families. So another sad passing, Mary Tyler Moore, the always lovely actress of our parents' generation of the 70s. She was best known for her television show, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, which when you can have a show named after you, you've arrived. She also starred, she was also in the Dick Van Dyke Show, and in a lot of things, through her career. In 1980's Ordinary People, in which she played the role of that was very different from her television characters. But she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for. Again, she died just last week as well, on the 25th, and we are saddened to hear, but a life well lived.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a lot of people were tossing their hat up in the air, in remembrance of Mary Tyler Moore, and I kind of thought that was kind of a nice little homage, but not meaning to get all heavy right away, but unfortunately it's kind of where we are. It's gonna happen. Moving on. So this last week, there's news stories that Amazon has run out of the book 1984, which is George Orwell's dystopian classic, right? It's kind of a cautionary tale about a brutal, amoral dictator. And apparently a lot of people are interested in this kind of a idea or topic. And for some reason, I don't know what it may be, but you can fill in the blanks however you would like to. Anyway, Amazon is just unable to kind of keep up with demand. It's like their number one bestseller right now, and it's selling out everywhere. And I just thought that was very, very interesting. I mean, when was the last time that book was selling that many copies?
Right? I think that's a bit of a testament as to people's current view of things. But again, we will let you, the studio audience, read into that as you may.
Yes. And you do know that we are filmed live before a studio audience, right, Steve?
Applause.
Yeah.
What?
So anyway, interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Something else that's got me really excited. The video game company Square Enix, which formerly used to be called Squaresoft, and they combined with Enix and became Square Enix many years ago. One of my favorite video game companies. They produce the Final Fantasy video games, which are some of my favorite. They've also done the most recent Tomb Raider games. They're actually teaming up with Marvel, and they're going to create a series of video games. And the first one's going to be an Avengers title called Reassemble. Kind of like they've been kind of broken apart for a while, and there's something that's going to bring them back together. There was just a little tiny snippet trailer out there this last week, but I'm excited for that. I mean, I love Square Enix. I love what they do in video games, and combining with Marvel, which I obviously love. I mean, that's just very, very obvious. I'm cool. I'm good. Let's do this. I want to see what's going to happen. You know, I'm going to be a little cautious because I don't want to get my hopes super high in case, you know, it happens to be a rare bomb for them. I just don't think that's going to happen, though. So,
yeah, speaking of Spaceballs earlier, this kind of reminds me, the whole Marvel thing kind of reminds me of the scene when Mel Brooks' character in Spaceballs is like, merchandising. They got Spaceballs the thermos, Spaceballs the lunchbox, Spaceballs the flamethrower. And it's like Marvel is like merchandising which is great. It's smart and people are eating it up. They're gobbling it up. But it's just funny to see. They're just keep spinning this thing. They have legs in every which way.
Why wouldn't you, right?
Why wouldn't you? No.
You're a company. You're supposed to make money. That's the idea.
That's the idea. Very cool. One of the things that I was going to bring up, just a small thing, but Millie Bobby Brown, the actress made famous by her role in Netflix series Stranger Things, which as you know is one of my faves, has joined the cast of Godzilla King of Monsters. And I think that if she's anything like her performances in Stranger Things, it's going to be good, and anything that she's in, I'd be interested to see. And I think she's probably going to be kind of one of those up and coming actresses that you're going to see in a lot of challenging roles. She's not one that is just going to come in like a Hannah Montana and going to get famous on this little teeny bop crap.
Do you think she's going to be kind of the way like Jennifer Lawrence was? Like Jennifer Lawrence had like a small role or two, but they kind of were breakout roles for her, and then she just kind of ended up, transitioning into being this, actress who was in the Hunger Game movies, and then, Argo, or not Argo, is it American Gangster?
Playbook Silver Lining.
Silver Lining's Playbook, and then Joy, and, Passengers, and all. Like she's all over the place now, but she started as a child actress.
Yeah, but again, one of those child actresses that isn't, I don't know, because you see a lot of child actors and actresses that do kind of a lot of that child genre, and then it's really hard for them to kind of break out into more mature roles. And I often find that they are the ones that get in the most trouble. You look at an Amanda Bynes or a Macaulay Culkin or whomever that, and what probably happens is they get stuck in this niche, right, of childhood and cutesy and all this, and they start to grow out of that, in their personal lives, and suddenly they have to be very extreme to show the world that they are no longer this, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. They've got to be somebody hard and dangerous.
Come on, man.
Drugs.
Where is the Corey Haim and Corey Feldman reference in this monologue? Give it to me.
Exactly. Lost Boys, man. License to Drive.
That's exactly right.
The Burbs. Anyway, so but great actress, and I'm looking forward to what she's going to do with the Godzilla role.
Nice. Well, we'll see what she does and see if she's the next Jennifer Lawrence. So this year, George R.R. Martin, the author of the Song of Ice and Fire series, which is being made into to the TV show Game of Thrones, he has said that he's going to include a short story that's going to be released later in the year in some anthology book. There's been a few of these anthologies where like a lot of popular authors of the day write these short stories, and they just kind of put them all into one book. And the short stories don't, go together or anything like that, but they may have like a theme, like they may have all be kind of like rogue type characters or, heroines or something like that. So he's saying that that's going to release. And it's still rumored that his 6th installment of the Song of Ice and Fire series, The Winds of Winter, the title is rumored that it's still going to come out in 2017. I don't know if that's true or not, but man, I want it to be. I want it to be bad. I'm ready for this book. There's 2 books that I'm dying for. One is The Winds of Winter, the next George Martin's series, and the other is the third book in the King Killer Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. And I don't know, there's no official dates on either of these two books, but man, I'm just waiting. I'm trying to be patient. They've got lives to live, and they've got to write their things, and they got to do it right. And so I'd rather it take a little while longer, and they do a good job on it, and not try to rush it out. But part of me is having a hard time sometimes going, yeah, I need to be a mature adult about this, and not a child who just says, gimme, 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 I want. So
I want to put cookie. I want to party. Me. I.
Now. Yes. I get it. So, Steve, did you see the new Star Trek series has been delayed again?
Oh my gosh. I did see that, actually, yes.
So, they were saying originally it was supposed to come out in January. Then it's May. Now, who knows? They've started filming. I do know that. But who knows when it's going to come out. I'm still so torn on this. I want to see this, but I hate that they're putting it behind their CBS All Access paywall. You know, I get CBS. I pay for cable, so I'm getting CBS that way. But if I want to watch a show, I've got to go and pay another like $10 a month. Ugh.
Well, Spencer, they are a company in the business of making money, and as you said...
I get it. No,
it sort of cuts both ways, Stapleton.
It does. My problem with this is that I don't want to see a lot of shows doing this when they're like broadcast networks, right? You know, if this was a Netflix series or an HBO series, I get that because it's content that they're putting on. They're not a network television channel.
Right.
CBS is a network television channel. And so my problem is that if they do this and it's successful, more shows are going to start going there. And then it's going to be,
oh, absolutely.
Hey, you know, you want to watch the Big Bang Theory or Survivor or, you know, whatever's the big show of the day. Nope, you can't watch that unless you pay an additional $10 on top of everything else. So I don't want to see that happen. The problem is not wanting to see that happen means this Star Trek Discovery show has to crash and burn. And I don't want that to happen because I'd like to see a nice, you know, Star Trek show on TV again. It's been a while. Not since Enterprise back in like the mid-2000s. So I don't know what I want. Like, I want it to succeed because I want to have the show, but I don't want it to succeed because I don't want the issue with the paywall to happen more often. So I'm a man of two minds. I am tore up.
Well, I think it should crash and burn. Just because, I don't want to have to pay more money. So, okay. One shall perish that the kingdom will not fall.
So, here's this. There's a new movie that just started filming on Monday, and it's called Red Cup. Mm-hmm. It's a working title. Steve, when you go to a party and someone gives you a red cup, what is the brand of cup they give you?
Solo.
Solo. As in Han Solo. Yes, that is right. The standalone Han Solo movie started filming on Monday. Now, that movie isn't going to be released until Christmas time of 2018, but I just thought that was really interesting that they called it Red Cup.
It's all coming together now.
Yeah. I really thought that was a nice little thing.
I see what they did there. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that tweet and it came out and it was actually tweeted. I saw it from Peter Mayhew, who plays Chewbacca, and it said Han First. And I went, what? Han First? And I look at it and I saw it was called Red Cup. And I went, Solo, Han First. I'm like, oh, and it was the little, I don't know what the technical term is, but the little like clapper that's like, mark, and they do the thing and they know like when the scene begins. And it was that, and I realized, oh, it's the first day of principal photography for the Solo standalone movie. How cool is that? So
that's very cool.
I had to piece together a few little puzzles.
Yeah, look at you, Sherlock Holmes.
So
What else you got for us?
I've got two more things, and I'm going to save the best for last. In a little bit of a sadder news, Peter Capaldi, the actor who's currently playing the Doctor in the current season of Doctor Who, this is going to be his last season, and then he'll do the Christmas special, and then we're going to get a new actor that'll play the Doctor. That's for Doctor Who fans. They're very familiar with this. It's a method that they can use to bring in new actors when an actor's gotten stale or wants to move on to something else, or their contract runs up. But I've enjoyed Peter Capaldi's run as the Doctor, and so a little sad to see him go. But as always, hope springs eternal, and we will see what will happen this season and who the new Doctor will be, probably at the tail end of the Christmas special.
Any thoughts? Any whispers in the?
Not yet, really.
Year?
I mean, they just kind of announced that. So typically, after the season ends, you'll start hearing probably more stories about potential, actors that could play the Doctor and whatnot, because they'll start filming the Christmas special sometime probably in the late fall after the seasons ran.
Sure.
And whoever the new Doctor is going to be, usually, the Doctor, he goes through his transformation and regenerates into the new Doctor. And they did this when David Tennant's Doctor transformed into Matt Smith's Doctor. It was right at the tail end of an episode, at the tail end of a season, and you saw Matt Smith's Doctor for maybe about 35 seconds or so, tops. And so I'm betting that that's going to be kind of like that. We'll get Peter Capaldi through the Christmas special, and then right at the end of the Christmas special, the transformation will take place, and then bang, we've got the new Doctor. And then we'll have to wait, the off season to find out who he's going to be, what he's going to do, all that kind of stuff. What his personality will be like once he regenerates. So,
I don't currently live in Whoville, but what's interesting about this is as a show writer, how genius of this.
It's perfect.
We're not tied to any actor. We're just going to regenerate them. We have whole new shows and what the rest and yada yada yada. And it's the gift that keeps on giving.
I tell you what, they came up with this idea back in the 60s when they started putting Doctor Who on BBC originally, and it's genius. I mean, you can run someone. I mean, David Tennant did it for a few years. Matt Smith, for let's see, David Tennant did 3 seasons. Matt Smith did 3-4 seasons, something like that. I mean, they can get a number of seasons out of someone and then done. This will be Peter Capaldi's 3rd season. So, anyway, really interesting. Okay, so the last item. And Steve, this is just for you, buddy.
All right.
Ben Affleck
is playing Doctor Who.
No,
I'm just kidding.
no.
I'm just kidding.
I doubt they'd ever have an American play Doctor Who. Ben Affleck, it's been said now that he's officially not going to be directing the upcoming Batman film.
Woohoo!
Yeah, look at you. No, he's still going to be in it. He's still going to be Batman. He's just not going to be directing it. And I know that he had a really strong kind of idea for what he wanted it to be, and had some, script ideas, and it sounded like they were going to kind of go his direction, but now someone else is going to be at the helm. Maybe he'll still write it. Who knows? But anyway, I thought I'd bring that up because I know of your love of Ben Affleck.
Yes, it's a love-hate relationship with more on the latter.
Well, look at you.
Very cool. Very cool.
And that's the last thing I've got this week for Rebel Intelligence.
All right. Well, it was a busy week. It was a busy week in pop culture.
Yeah, a lot going on. A lot going on this last week. A lot of things out there often popping. So, anyway, last week we had our movie club and we did The Magnificent Seven. We were joined, as always, by Brita, who joins us every month for the movie club. And then Chase Van Orden joined us as a special guest. We talked about the Magnificent Seven, and we asked you, the listener, what was your favorite Western movie? And as always, we have some responses. So let's go over to Facebook first. Peter Christensen said, it probably doesn't count, but the opening of Toy Story 3 was pretty awesome. I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, gosh.
Kelly Smith said, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, followed closely by the outlaw Josie Wales. Shane holds a special place in my heart, along with Tom Horn. And she says, you got to get some Yul Brynner, so an invitation to a gunfighter.
Yeah.
And then she also said, and Tombstone. So apparently she likes Westerns. Court Frug said...
Court Fruget, he's a good friend of mine.
Okay, Court Fruget says, Back to the Future 3, hands down. An old friend of ours, Eric Salway, said Young Guns 1 and 2, Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid was awesome. I'll make you famous.
I'll make you... Oh, that's $1.80 I've spent.
Yes. So, so we got some of those. Let's see here. We on Facebook, I think we had a few more. Yes. Marshall Williams Winder says, The Cowboys, best ever. And I thought maybe she was just having a go at me and, talking about the Dallas Cowboys. No, there's a 1972 movie called The Cowboys, and I believe it has John Wayne in it. So
I thought she was talking about the one with Tommy Lee Jones. I was like, eee.
I think that's Space Cowboys.
Yeah, I know.
And that's about astronauts, not a Western at all.
That's right. That's why I was saying, has she seen the movie? All right.
Jonathan Rubo. Is it Rubo?
Rubo. Yep, you got it.
Rubo. Jonathan, sorry, I almost mispronounced that. Jonathan Rubo says Quigley Down Under.
Oh, Tom Selleck and his mustache. His mustache actually had his own part in the credits.
I think his mustache gets paid separately.
Probably more than Tom does.
He also said Serenity is another good one, a bit of a mixed genre. And that's true. Serenity is kind of cowboys in space. Yeah. So I'm on board with that. I love Serenity, and I love Firefly, the TV show.
That's a great
show. Jason Bolth said Tombstone. And a TV show that fits with this, but a modern twist, is Longmire. So,
not familiar. Is that?
I haven't seen Longmire, so I could not tell you. Going over to Twitter, Seth Roy at Seth Joseph Roy says The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford is a close second. And I think we talked a little bit about Good, Bad, and the Ugly. I'm on board there. I haven't seen the Assassination of Jesse James movie, but I've heard a bunch of people, so I heard it from a lot of people. So, Spin Nerd at DSpin67 says, I grew up on Westerns, Fistful of Dollars, Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Few Dollars More, and 310 to Yuma.
Ooh, 310 to Yuma. That is a good one.
And then going over to our Gmail, Eric Gifford, my brother-in-law, said, my favorite Western is probably The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, starring John Wayne and Jimmy Stewart. Great classic that explores the difference between a cowboy and a pacifist. He says the conflict between Wayne and Stewart characters and how it all plays out in the end is genius. Honorable mention to Rio Bravo, also John Wayne, with a young Dean Martin singing My Rifle, Pony, and Me.
Huh. Check some of these out. These are some good recommendations.
Yeah, and then my mother-in-law, Chris Gifford, got to me on email, and she said The Outlaw Josie Wales with Clint Eastwood, 1976. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne, 1962. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Robert Redford, Paul Newman, 1969. And The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is 1966. And True Grit, the original with John Wayne, 1969. So she gave us some of those. I definitely saw a theme. I think in the Western genre, there's a lot of love for definitely a handful that we'll say maybe kind of the greatest hits of Westerns. So
Exactly.
I did put it out there to see if some people could come up with, some unusual things that maybe we hadn't heard. So points go this week to Peter Christensen for the Toy Story 3 opening reference, and Marshall Williams Winder for the Cowboys, as well as Jonathan Rubo for Serenity.
Nice. Very nice, guys.
Not that handing out points really means anything from our podcast.
You get a prize. It'll be in the mail, and just wait for it.
Yeah. In 6 to 8 weeks, if you write to that address in Pueblo, Colorado.
That's right, exactly.
But anyway, I appreciate you guys always responding to our question of the week. We enjoy the interaction, and I'm glad that some people saw that I said hey, toss me out some some more random ones, and and we'll definitely make sure to get them on. So anyway, thank you once again. We do appreciate it. Steve, I totally forgot to tell you something.
Is this gonna get crazy?
Your definition of crazy or my definition of crazy?
We have family listing. Go ahead.
Okay, so definitely someone else's definition of crazy.
He's buried 2 doors down in the backyard under an oak tree.
Right. I totally forgot to tell you something during my weekly update. I have finished Stranger Things.
What? Sorry,
Yes.
I was drinking some soda. Really?
Yes, I finished Stranger Things.
Well, you can now die a happy man.
I would agree with that. So
I gotta know.
Yeah, okay, so let's get into it. I loved it, man. I absolutely just loved it. Gosh.
Did you gorge yourself on it? Did you, hunker down and like...
So Reed and I watched it together, and we ended up watching usually about 2 episodes a night. We would have liked to have just gone hog wild and watched all 8 episodes straight, but just timing wasn't going to allow that. We typically weren't turning it on till around 10 o'clock at night after the kids were in bed, and we'd had dinner and kind of gotten everything kind of squared away for the next day, and things kind of cleaned up and put away, and then settled in and tried to figure out what we wanted to do. It was around 10 o'clock each night. So we'd get like 2 episodes in, but we did finish it all last week. So
I am so proud of you. I am so proud.
Yes.
My little boy's becoming a man. That's awesome. That is really cool. So let me ask you this, because this is one of the things that I really appreciated from it, is I felt like it was almost like a period piece, right? It was like an 80s period piece. And I felt like there were a lot of things that were E.T.-esque, and I think I talked about this a few podcasts ago, but E.T., a little bit of Goonies in there, a little bit of just some nods to our child, to our growing up, and I love that connection. I really felt like, oh my gosh, yeah, that, and I remember that, and this game, and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that like really jumped out at me right away. I mean, oh gosh, even in like the first episode, when Will Byers gets abducted, right?
Right.
There's kind of that whole scene where he's listening to the Clash with his older brother, and his older brother's like kind of like introducing him to that. And I'm listening to this thing, and I'm like, yes, I love the Clash, and I love that music. But like that was big at that time. Like that was, new.
Yeah.
And like, today it's nostalgia for me, but at the time when this movie was supposed to take place, which I believe was like 1983, that was brand new.
Yeah. I remember just thinking about like when my brother introduced me to like Van Halen, like Def Leppard, all these things, and Twisted Sister, all these that my mom probably wouldn't have wanted me to listen to, and now I'm introducing my kids to,
Right, and yeah.
But you had things like the walkie-talkies, like the kids are communicating on the walkie-talkies, and they've got them like attached to their BMX bikes, and they've got like windbreakers, members only windbreakers, and they're playing a role-playing game, and it's
so they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, right? And I had heard that they were playing Dungeons and Dragons during kind of like when this first came out. Everyone's like, oh yeah, they kind of play Dungeons and Dragons, but it wasn't just like they kind of played it. They played it a time or two, and then some of the plot, like they named the what do they call it? The Demigorgon. Yeah, they named kind of like that alien or that creature after the character from their Dungeons and Dragons. So like they kept referencing it, and they talked about the Upside Down world, which is kind of like the Shadow Walker world from one of their quests in Dungeons and Dragons. So like Dungeons and Dragons kind of had like this underlying current throughout the entire series.
Right.
And
Right.
I thought that was really kind of a cool way to kind of help like move plot along.
Yeah. Well, and they could always reference that, and like when some of the boys were going to give up, they're like, no, man, we've got to make this quest, and they I think they referenced it a lot. So yeah, it was kind of an underlying theme to the.
You've never played Dungeons and Dragons, right?
I've not, no.
See, neither have I. I kind of would like to at least try it out for a little while. But what I liked about that, though, is that I felt like they did a really good job of kind of showing like what Dungeons and Dragons is and explaining it without like having to go into like great detail. And so like when they would reference something back, they're like, oh no, we remember when we tried to take on, I don't know, like the Razor Beast monster, and
Right.
Will Byers always goes defense first, but why did he throw a fireball at the Demigorgon? Because that's not, kind of the way he, normally does things. It's not part of his profile and whatever. And it's like they would reference things back, but like it never felt like overly heavy in as much that like you wouldn't be able to follow, and you're like, oh well, let me go, onto the internet to figure out, what they meant when they said this. Like it wasn't heavy, with like terminology. It seemed almost easy access, like anyone could pick up. Like my wife never complained about that, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. What I also really appreciated, and I appreciate this with a lot of shows I think that have come out in recent years, is you don't have a lot of big name actors and actresses. Now, while they may become big names because of said show, really with this one you had Winona Ryder and you had Matthew Modine. Those are really the two big names that stand out in this cast.
Right.
Everybody else is pretty much before the show and kind of a no name. But I thought the acting was just fantastic.
I agree with you. I mean, Winona Ryder and Matthew Modine were the only two names I recognized right off the bat.
Right.
And then everyone else is, like new actors or actors that we haven't seen in like big things before. And I thought the ensemble cast was great. Like I thought all of those kids were excellent actors in their own right, but like just fit the parts very well.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like any of them were like, okay, it's like, okay, you've got the kind of the one normal kid. At least it seems like, right? And then his, friend who, Will Byers, who ends up getting abducted. And then you've got kind of like the goofy kid who's kind of like Chunk from the Goonies, right?
Exactly.
Who Dustin is his name, who's kind of got like the issue with his teeth. And then you've got like the one black kid, but like
the
none
token
of them,
black kid.
right. None of that ever felt to me like they were like trying to like, here's a token kid that's kind of a goofy kid, or here's a token kid who's a minority.
Right. Because I think because they didn't play to those, right? They didn't like make it a big deal about his teeth or about his size or about his, and it really kind of felt like this could be a cross section of, middle America.
Right. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. And so I really enjoyed that because I find that when movies play to those kind of like stereotypes, it seems to detract for me. It tends to pull me out of the story. Absolutely. And I didn't feel like that's going on. There's so many actors like who's the
Hopper?
Hopper, yes, the guy who plays the sheriff, right? I thought he looks so familiar to me. Like I feel like I've seen him in other things.
He does, yeah, me too. Right when I saw him, I was like, I've totally seen him in lots of things. And actually, I am headed to IMDb right now to tell you what he's been in.
Okay, yeah, because the entire time I kept going, he looks familiar. I feel like I've seen him before in this and that and the other thing.
Yeah, you probably have, because he was Dexter Tolliver in Suicide Squad. Does that ring a bell?
Dexter Tolliver, Suicide Squad. What?
I don't know. He's been in some shows, a lot of TV series. Rake, The Equalizer, A Walk Among the Tombstones, Manhattan, The Newsroom, State of Affairs, Banshee.
Oh, The Newsroom. That's where I know him from.
Elliot Hirsch.
Yep, that's where I know him. He plays the like one of the other big news anchors that has like the time slot behind Will McAvoy's, which is played by Jeff Bridges. Anyway, yeah. So
he was in some Law and Orders back in the day. There's just some small roles there, but
I knew him from somewhere.
but still, I mean, a lot of just kind of TV stuff. But anyway, great actor, and I love the fact that, you know, whenever you can add some kind of layers to somebody's backstory. And again, we've talked about this. I think our original podcast was talking about origin stories, but with this guy, you get the sense that he is, you know, he's kind of taken a turn in his life, and he's drinking, he's coming in late to work, he's you know, kind of half going at it. You know?
Right. Well, like the first time I was introduced to this guy, I was like, really? This guy's the sheriff? I'm like, he looks like he's been phoning it in for like the last 15 years. Right?
That's right.
Just shows up to work and he's like, hey, I'm not really here. Just leave me alone. I'm going to go smoke and fall asleep.
That's right. And then they have, you know, he and Winona Ryder seem to have some kind of backstory where either they dated for a while or they knew each other in high school or something like that. But you get the sense that this is a small town. You know, Winona Ryder, you know, is kind of seen as like this crazy woman. You know, when she starts,
she's seen better days.
She's seen better days. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, besides the fact, you know, that her kid gets abducted and, you know, she starts, you know, having these, you know, kind of mental episodes where she feels like she's getting communication from him. You just get this sense that like the divorce she went through prior to the series, just like that marriage and that divorce just probably took a lot out of her.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's just trying to kind of hold it together, you know, very blue collar, you know, having to be kind of like a tough love mom to keep her kids straight. And
yeah, for sure.
Now, let me ask this. So, you know, I don't know, obviously she watched the whole series with you, but how does Brita do with things that are a little bit, you know, thriller? I wouldn't say this is like a horror, but this has definitely got some thrilling moments.
Yeah, suspense for sure.
A little scary.
Yeah, so Brita doesn't like scary movies. I'm not a big scary person. I don't really go for like horror movies.
Right.
I like suspense movies, but yeah, sometimes I'm just like, it's not, you know, something I want to watch all the time. Brita can't take a lot of stuff that's really suspenseful or like really emotional. Like when we watch The Walking Dead, if we're a few episodes behind, we can't plow through like 3 or 4 episodes of The Walking Dead
She
straight.
needs like an emotional break.
She does. She'll say, hey, okay, we just watched The Walking Dead. It's kind of getting late. Can we turn on something that's like fun to kind of just, you know, so I don't have to have this being the last thing on my mind before I go to bed. And so we're actually slowly, and I say this because it's true, we're actually very slowly watching Cheers on Netflix.
Wow. That is so funny because I was literally going to make a Ted Danson reference earlier in the night when you were talking about the Doctor Who. I'm like, if they could have just recreated, Ted Danson's character, we could still be watching Cheers.
Let's see there. Yep. We are watching Sam and Diane in their heyday right now.
Shelley Long. Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, so that's right now Cheers is the palate cleanser, if you will.
It's the thin mint, the after dinner mint of our media consumption. It's wafer thin. So what does she think then? How does she do with this show?
She loved it. She really did love it. Although she admitted to me, she's like, it kind of ramps at the end, which, like we've talked about before, you know, we like good storytelling, right? And if it takes a little bit and it builds and it builds and it builds, then, you know, it's kind of this upward curve that once you start getting in towards the very end episodes of a season or a series, a lot happens and a lot of things kind of get tied up and come to conclusions and resolutions. And the last like episode or two was a lot for her. She had a bit of a hard time watching it because she felt like it was just really intense for long periods of time with not a lot of break.
Yeah. No, I thought it was intense. It's funny because my wife came down. She said, "What are you watching?" And I kind of told I told her a little bit about the series before, but she came down right at the point when Will, and this is earlier on in the series, but when Will is trying to communicate with his mom, right? And it's like the lights and stuff and whatnot, and so he starts spelling things, and it's like she's like R U N. run. And it's like, blah, that's right when my wife was coming out. She's like, I'm out of here, scurries up the stairs like a scared gerbil. It was, I'm like, probably wasn't the best time to come down. Like that was a bit of an intense part. So, but yeah, and in the end, of course, when 11 kind of does battle and head to head with the Demogorgon, that was pretty intense in the school.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was way intense. Oh man, I'm still trying to process a lot of it. Like I feel like
what
it was
happened.
Well, it was so good, and the storytelling was excellent. Like I have to like stop and like think. I'm like, what exactly happened and how it happened, and try to make sure I've got it all in order. But when she was doing that showdown with the Demogorgon at the end, I mean, it was like she went from being this like little girl who could, do a couple like little tricks to like full on Jedi Master status.
Right.
I mean, she was just
to
like
vaporize something. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just intense. And I mean, girl had it going on.
Well, and I really liked in good storytelling that they were able to keep the Demogorgon a frightening aspect for the audience, but still not really, you didn't really see it up until probably halfway through the series, right?
Yeah, which reminded me of Jaws. Like you think about the Jaws movie, like all you hear is that 2-note bum 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 bum, right? But you don't actually see the shark until you're like 3/4 of the way through that film.
That's right. You only see people up on top, from the top of the water, and you kind of see them go under the water. Yeah,
and it builds
which is even scarier.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. I totally felt that way. I was like, I remember at some point thinking, we're not going to see this thing until like the very, very end.
Mm-hmm. No, they and again, great storytelling. They held you in suspense and tightened those screws.
And I don't know why this was one of my favorite kind of like side characters, and I was so glad like he didn't get killed. But the science teacher that's like. He's like, they're like, hey, mister, we've got a question about this. And he's like, well, I'm trying to have a date right now. I was like, we have to know. And he's like, well, okay, boys, if there is a parallel dimension, here's how it works. And he's like turning the paper over, and he's like, you'd have to puncture through. Like he knows all this stuff about like, relative physics and whatnot. Right. Yet he teaches science at a junior high. And like,
how do you get weapons grade plutonium? Well, I've got a contact to the Iranian government.
And he plays like Dungeons and Dragons because he's like, yes, it's like the shadow world. And you're like, yeah. I was like, seriously, I'm like, this science teacher.
He's like their Sherpa.
Yeah. Like, he's like, I'm going to get you to the top of that mountain, boys. Hop on my back.
Right. That's right.
I mean, I love that just a side character. I mean, he was just a side character, but I really loved him. I was like, please don't let this guy die. If they do, season 2, I want him back. He was a lot of fun.
Yep. So the other side character that I think has taken the internet by storm is, of course, Barb.
Oh, yeah. Let me ask you this. I don't know what it was, but did you get like the jealous vibe from her when she was like, no, let's not go to the party. What he wants. Like, I was like, is she jealous of like what's about to happen? Like she wishes she was in her place, or is she secretly harboring romantic feelings for her friend?
Oh,
yeah.
An added layer. What is this, Modern Family?
You never know, right? I'll tell you what, though. I saw a picture of the actress that plays Barb from the SAG Awards, and she looks completely different than she did on the show. Like, really? Completely. I mean, I didn't even recognize her. I was like, oh, this is a really attractive redhead. Who did she play in this show? And then someone's like, oh, that's Barb. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, that makeup department and that hair department, they deserve a Golden
Academy
Globe or
Award.
an Oscar. Yeah, seriously.
That's hilarious. Well, what's funny is so that there's been like huge uproar about, is she dead? Is she not? Yada, yada, yada. And Jimmy Fallon did a great skit or whatever. It was part of his show. You can look it up. But the kids are downstairs in the basement, like playing Dungeons and Dragons. And suddenly like Barb just walks in. And she's like, what the freak, guys? You freaking leave me down there? And like, oh, we're sorry, Barb. She's like, yeah, that's right. And she's like, overturns their board, and the pieces go everywhere, and she's all like ticked off at them. It is hilarious.
Really?
Forget about old Barb, did ya?
So, is there actually controversy over whether or not she's alive or dead?
I think there was like internet controversy, and actually, David Harbour, who plays Hop on the show, he went on Kimmel or some other talk show, and he had like put the rumors to rest. He's like it was crazy. Like on the set, like we would get like fan mail, all this stuff, everything like for Barb, and he's like, guys, she's dead. Okay, there was a slithering thing coming out of her face.
Yeah, like her body looked like half, like deformed and like decaying when they showed her.
Yeah, that's kind of how she went.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. When you saw Will Byers with that kind of like hose running into his mouth, did you immediately think of like Alien or Aliens?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. That and kind of also the idea that, I think when they were walking in the Upside Down, it was Hop and Winona Ryder's character, right?
Uh-huh.
Will Byers' mom, Mrs. Byers, and like they came across like this, like I was like an egg, but it looked like it was kind of like cracked open and kind of like broken, and I immediately went, "Oh man, this looks just like Alien."
Yep. It had a lot of this. Well, and then of course the end, when Will Byers makes it back, and he's having dinner with his family,
right?
And then he has to go to the bathroom, and
he kind of has that moment, right? And like you kind of see the Upside Down just like flash into like his world for like a minute,
right?
Or like a few seconds, coughs up like a slug,
exactly.
Some sort of thing. That to me, I remember a lot of people saying that was like reminiscent of what was that show? Twin Peaks, the TV show Twin Peaks. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, I do. I don't remember why that's.
I guess at like the very end of that season, because I didn't really watch it as a kid, but at the very end of that season, there was some sort of like, I don't know, some sort of scene where someone's like looking in the mirror and realizes like something he brought through. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, But everyone was talking about it. I really didn't see it, so I didn't really pay that close attention. But this movie was filled with all sorts of like Easter eggs or like throwbacks to like, 1980s films. I mean, obviously the biggest one for me is the E.T. references, like the Steven Spielberg stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kids riding around on bicycles and using walkie-talkies, and the boy tries to hide 11 like in his basement, kind of like in this like little makeshift room. I'm like, this is totally like when they hide E.T. in the house.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love the character of the dad as well. He's like totally dismissive and like he's not really paying attention to anything,
Yeah.
Yes, dear. Eating a Salisbury steak, he's like, I drive a Dodge Stratus. he's like that kind of dad.
Right. Yeah, so there was that. Gosh, there was like little references to like Star Wars, like they kept talking about Lando, right? That whole episode, they're like, Lando, it's Lando. I was like, she's a traitor, it's Lando.
I'm telling you.
But then like they have like the little Yoda toys, and I mean, you got to think about it, like 1983, right? This would have been like right before Return of the Jedi would have came out.
Yep.
So Empire Strikes Back would have, still been really popular, from a few years back for these boys.
The one character I have to say that made me a little jealous was Steve Harrington and his hair.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I'm like, freaking Zach Morris would bow down to this guy and his hair.
What did you think about the fist fight?
Between he and Jonathan Byers?
Yes.
I thought that was good. I love the part though when Jonathan Byers and Nancy Wheeler go back to the Byers home, and they're trying to kind of get prepared and whatnot. And then Steve's like, "Come on, let me in. Come on, let me in." And then suddenly he's like, "What the freak?" And the Debbie
like, I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. You're on your own, sucking with the weirdo. Yeah. Good luck, you freaks.
No kidding. It was funny because I remember watching that little fight scene, and that they had, and I remember someone saying to me online just the other day, I was talking to a friend, and he's like, "Hey, what did you think about that reference to the They Live, which was the Roddy Piper movie?" And I was like, Which scene was that?" And they're like, "Don't you remember at the end of that movie, They Live, there's that huge, like, brawl scene between the two guys, like, in an alley, but, like, it goes on for forever, and it's, like, kind of ridiculous." It's like, it's like, yeah, Stranger Things kind of did a little homage to that when they had the little, fist fight in the alley that kind of was going on a little too long for what a fist fight between boys of that age would go on for. I was like, man, I didn't even catch that. I'm like, that felt like a kind of a pull there.
Is that
but,
a stretch? Is that a little bit of a stretch?
A little bit. But I mean, some of the other things that stood out was like right when Nancy Byers, is Nancy Byers the mom? No, Nancy's the daughter.
Nancy Wheeler's
Nancy Wheeler, yeah. When, I don't know, Joyce Byers, that's her name. Yeah.
Yep.
Like when she's like painting like letters on the wall and hanging all the lights and like talking to the lights, it made me think of like one of my dad's favorite movies, which was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where like Richard Dreyfuss like starts kind of going nuts and like he starts like sculpting the Devil's Tower out of the mashed potatoes, and then that's not good enough, so like he digs up the backyard and he brings all the dirt into the house and he makes the big Devil's Tower out of dirt like in the living room. Like he's just like lost it at this point, right? And so like I totally kept thinking about that every single time she's like hanging the lights and like hiding in that little cubby and the lights were like blinking and she's like, blink once for yes, blink twice for no,
Yeah, she played a great, like, crazy crack addict type woman. Like, not crack addict, but just plays that part to a T.
Yeah. Gosh, hands down, there was great acting all around. I think she had the best acting in that entire series. I really did.
You figure her character hadn't slept for, like, weeks on end or whatever. I mean, it was...
Well, there's that scene where she goes into... like the store, like kind of like the grocery store, like the general store that like she works in. And she's like asking for an advance because her phone broke. And then she's like, and I need light bulbs and I need this and I need smokes. And the guy's like, he's just kind of like freaking out. Like, come on now, Joyce, and she's like, just give it to me. I've never been late. I've never missed. And like just goes off. But it felt super believable. Like it didn't feel like she was acting. It felt like, this is a mom who's, gosh, going through hell, just absolute horrible, worst possible thing you could be going through. And all she's trying to do is communicate with her kid, but like she can't tell people that because she knows that it sounds crazy, and it is crazy. And she, it was so well done. It was just so well done.
Yeah, and there's that respect that you're like, wow, she's like a tough woman. Like this is a tough woman that is not going to stop just because people don't believe her or they think she's crazy. Like she will, she'll do whatever she can to get her son back. And that's, and you think about that like in real life situations when there are your parents that lose a child or they're kidnapped or whatever, and that takes just crazy amount of strength. And I think, like you said, played it very well. I wanted to mention one thing. So I think the kids in this movie or in this series are phenomenal, and I can't wait till season 2 comes out, which I think it's going to be coming out this spring or they're filming or whatnot. I did see something though, because I'm like, who are these kids and what have they done before? And they haven't done a lot previous to this.
Uh-huh.
They were at the Emmy Awards last year, and check this out if you haven't. Those listening at home, check this out. They started the show by singing, not lipping, not whatever, Uptown Funk. It's phenomenal. Like
really,
Miley Bobby Brown, like she sings it and they all kind of dance and they do like background singing, but they are so freaking talented. Like aside from just acting and whatever, like I was blown away. I'm like, these kids are, like 12, 13, 14 years old, maybe younger, and just awesome.
Okay, let me ask you this, because you're talking about music and it made me think of this. How good is that opening musical number?
I gotta say, like that alone, like every time I see that, usually you'd want to like fast forward to the beginning. I love that where like all the and all the like the words are kind of coming together, and then you go through the words. It's so beautifully 80s, right? And then the black has like little specks in it, like it's an older movie, Oh, I freaking love it. I eat that up.
I'm with you. We did not skip that ever.
No.
Matter of fact, I want to find like a GIF of that and like put it up like on like a background of mine somewhere on social media. I want that song. Like I want to listen to that song just, I don't know, like a playlist. So, like every morning when I wake up, instead of my normal alarm, which is the Superman theme on my phone,
Nice.
it'll play like Stranger Things for a while. Like I
It's
feel
like
like I haven't.
it's the perfect like 80s synthesized, but still like
Yes.
ominous. There's got to have like a haunting kind of ominous sinisterness to it.
I just feel like I haven't got enough of it yet.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there's just a real good piece of music that like you will listen to that thing like every day, multiple times a day for a few weeks or a few months until you kind of finally burn through it and you're like, okay, I can move on now. That's how I feel about this. Like I'm not ready to move on yet. I want to keep hearing that.
And then I love the titles as well. The titles are just these kind of cool, weird, creative titles. You kind of figure like what could this episode possibly be about? Because I cannot guess from the title.
Right, like there was the episode that was called like was it Holly Jolly or Holly Jolly or Jolly Holly? Holly Jolly, I think. I don't know. But it's like it's the name of like the youngest daughter, the youngest Wheeler daughter.
Oh right.
But like that was the first time like when like the Demogorgon like is like pushing through the wall and like the little girl Holly sees it and like and Joyce snatches her up and then hands her back over to Mrs. Wheeler, and I was just like,
that's right.
Whoa. But like that was named after her, which is kind of funny because I mean, we don't name our podcast like, episode 10, this is the one where we talk about this. Like we try to give it like a unique name, something funny or something that kind of came up through the podcast. So I really kind of liked the random names of the episodes. Like it's not like, this is the one where the Demogorgon comes alive or
that's right, exactly.
Because then it gives things away.
Yeah, it just every aspect from the opening to the credits to the music to the titles to the I think it's a great job. And I actually read after I started watching the series, and the Duffer Brothers who do this show, their inspiration for this was Spielberg. It was Carpenter. All of these, and they've just done such a great job. So I love the show.
It makes sense, right? I mean, all that comes through. I mean, heavily.
Yeah. They just do it so well, though. They just do it so well. I haven't seen, this just, it seems just right in step with like Goonies, which I don't know about you, but like Goonies is like the movie that epitomizes my childhood, right?
Yep.
I watched that so many times and wanted to find the treasure map and go on a grand adventure, and this just seems right, lockstep with this show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gosh, there were so many things from the 80s, like little references, like, obviously like we talked about like the Clash, that kind of seemed like a more overt reference. But then there was like the Evil Dead poster that was on the wall in the background. Right? Like little things like that you didn't, maybe you just didn't like pay super close attention to, but they kind of hit on it. And I kind of felt like after a while I was like, man, I feel like they're throwing tons of like 80s references at you. And in a lot of other things that would seem hokey or out of place, or like, oh, they're just trying to cram in as many references as they possibly can. They did it in a really good way. Like one of the things I kind of thought about this, they have a kind of a same theme or a similar theme in theirs, like how 11 goes into, that sensory deprivation tank, right? And she kind of goes into that kind of dream world or whatever you want to call it, the upside down. Mm-hmm. And like she ends up kind of, coming in contact with the Demogorgon and like making it like aware of her presence. And because of that, like now he's coming like for our world, right? Which is kind of like the story or kind of like the theme of like Nightmare on Elm Street, except, these kids go to sleep, and when they go to sleep in their dreams, Freddy Krueger comes and attacks them. And then eventually Freddy Krueger's going to try to like, get into our world. So it's a very similar theme as like a 1980s movie. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street was like what, 1984?
Yep.
They're not like, they don't do it in such a way that like it feels like, hey, we're just retelling Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Like you never feel that. And so I don't know how much time they took thinking of like, how to kind of carefully place a lot of 80s themes from different movies or different, genres and kind of find a way to kind of intermesh them. But they did it in such a good way that some of the nods were very overt and kind of a wink, wink, nod, nod, and everyone kind of like laughs and kind of gets in on it. And then a lot of other stuff was really, really subtle. And I really liked that.
Yep. Yeah. So again, for those listening who haven't taken the opportunity to check this show out on Netflix, do yourself a favor. You'll have to etch out some time, possibly quit your job, tell the wife and kids to go to the mother-in-law's house and take a look, because in the hands of the Duffer Brothers, this series gets a rousing 2 thumbs, 5-star rating from me. So,
yeah, I loved it. I'm glad that it was only 8 episodes. I think if they would have stretched it out 12, 13 episodes, it may have felt like it went on too long. I felt this 8 episodes was just perfect. It was just long enough to get the story across and to do it right, but not too long, and it definitely wasn't too short that they felt like you had to cram a ton of stuff in and move everything along. It was a good build for me, great storytelling. I'm going to go far and wide and recommend this to everyone that I possibly can.
And I will say, one thing that I saw, and I think I mentioned this when we talked about this on our upcoming 2017 podcast, was that Sean Austin is actually billed to be in season 2.
Ooh.
And yeah, he's gonna be some kind of, I don't know if he's gonna be a shop owner in town or something like that, but he's great in everything he's in. He loves this series, and oddly enough, he was Mikey in Goonies.
Yes, he was.
So it all comes full circle, baby.
Yes. So, Steve, I don't know about you. Is this something you think you would rewatch before the next season comes out?
Odd that you would just ask that, because as you're talking about trying to remember the order of things, it's been 3 or 4 months since I've seen it. And I kind of am a little foggy on some of the details still. So I may rewatch this again before hitting season 2. Yeah.
I definitely think I'm going to rewatch it again because it was really good. And it was only 8 episodes. And so I feel like if we were able to polish it off in a week before, I can find time to watch it right before the next season kind of comes up and kind of just get caught up on everyone and just kind of get back into the world of Stranger Things. Maybe not the upside down world, but just, the world of Stranger Things.
You've got 8 hours before you have to get to work again. Come on. Let's do it tonight.
I can make it happen. So, so good. I love Netflix. I love the original series stuff they're doing. And I'm so glad they did this. It's just, it kind of has a special place in my heart right now. Obviously it's new for me, because I watched it a little bit later than most people, but all the 80s references just made it feel very nostalgic to me, even though it's a brand new story, right? I'm in love with this thing. I love it. Can't get enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that you should get out there. I'm excited to see season 2, and what as well that's kind of opened a door for me is that what other original series are out there that I might be missing. That I've just not gotten around to, haven't heard of. Maybe there's some underground series that that are really good, but that just aren't making headlines for whatever reason.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's put that out this week to our listeners. If you're listening to the podcast, our question to you this week is going to be, what original series done by Netflix or HBO or Showtime, anyone that's not a major network broadcasting station, someone who's, doing their own thing. What show really has you excited? What should we be looking for? What original content? So hit us up on Twitter @FortOfNerd or Facebook. You can find us The Fortress of Nerditude @FortOfNerd on Facebook. Or you can always email us, fortofnerd@gmail.com, and let us know what original show, what original content should we be watching? What are we missing? Because we don't want to miss it. And you can help us not miss it.
That's right. And we are not the all-seeing eye of Mordor that we can see all and know all. So be our eyes, be our ears, and edumacate us.
I like how you're going to throw it right back to Lord of the Rings after we just talked about Sean Astin, who was Samwise Gamgee. Hey.
This guy's everywhere. Get those hairy feet out of here.
So, Steve, we're doing well. We're picking up some new listeners. We're getting some listeners from some new places. But we like friends. We want more friends. We want people to join us and have a good time with us. How can we find more friends?
Friends, tell your friends. And follow us on Twitter at Fort of Nerd. I'm sorry, no.
Yes. No. Yes, we want him to do that, Steve.
yes.
Follow us on Twitter at Fort of Nerd.
Yeah. But also rate us on iTunes, guys. Rate us on iTunes. Give us a thumbs up so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as the Upside Down.
Nice. So I'll just let you guys know that by going on to iTunes and giving us a rating and writing a review, more people see those things and then they decide to try it and give it a go. So by doing that, you're helping us out. And if you go on this week and you give us a review or a rating, we will customize a special picture of Steve and I with a Stranger Things background, and we will post it on social media.
All right.
That's really just because I want to do that.
You have to be 11 because of your hairstyle. So there you go.
That's probably true. Although she doesn't have the facial hair that I have, so we'll have to figure that out.
Not yet.
But yeah, go ahead, give us a rating, give us a review on iTunes. Drop us a line, let us know how the show's going for you. We're always interested to hear from people. So, anyway, that's how you can help us. We want friends, and friends help us find your friends.
Friends, don't let other friends drive without listening to the podcast through their... I got nothing. Cut that out. I don't know where I was going. All right, should I end this thing?
Let's end this.
Let's end this thing. You want to do it? Me? You?
You? Me? You? Me? 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 You? You?
Me?
Me?
You? Ice cream. All right. Guys, so fun being with you. Till next time, may the Force be with you. Always.